Good morning, Jamaica. Thank you for joining us this morning for another press conference from the Office of the Leader of the Opposition. Today, we're talking about the spark that isn't sparking. Across Jamaica, communities were given hopes that after over 10 years in office, this JLP administration was finally going to do something about the road network in the country. Those hopes have been dashed because, according to the latest report from the National Works Agency at the last sitting of the PAAC, the government's progress can be rated low at about 26% of progress in almost a year and a half since the program started. So the Spark program was estimated to cost between $40 to $45 billion, and constituencies were rallied around the country in 2025. And as you know, 2025 was a special year, an election year. And so communities were organized into town halls, into school auditoriums, and told that they could select 10 roads of their choice, and they would be fixed because the government had yet another acronym, SPARK, that would bring relief to their roads. Now we're told by the NWA that perhaps someone put the horse before the cart, because roads that could cost 10, 15 billion maybe, constituencies were now being told they had 300 million perhaps to do the roads in their constituencies. So not 10 roads, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 3, maybe 2, based on the budget that has been assigned to the constituencies. Let's take the case of South St. James, which is in the parish of St. James, naturally. There are 5 constituencies in St. James. When we look at the report submitted by the National Works Agency at the PAAC about 2 weeks ago, we see a constituency that has been left behind while the 4 others are taking some steps forward. 10 roads were identified in South St. James for reconstruction on the Spark. But the gash is only in 1 road, and that is the Brissett Road. That's the only road out of the 10 roads that has seen any work at all under the Spark program. And when we say work, we mean the road has been dug up and it's now a muggy bog. So people can't even use the road because no work, not sparking on even Brissett Road. The other 9 roads in South St. James, nothing go on for them. Because up to this date, we were asked as the representatives to submit liaisons for this road, for all 10 roads, and not one of the liaisons submitted have been contacted by the contractors. So to say that the opposition is really pouring cold water on the Spark is really saying too much, because the truth is the Spark never sparked to begin. Today we have some representatives from across the island who want to speak with you about the progress of Spark in their respective constituencies. And do not believe for a moment that this, because they are here, it means that these are the only constituencies where we're having challenges with Spark. Today, we will hear from the Member of Parliament for Central Westmoreland, Mr. Dwayne Vaz. He will tell you what's going on. There are protests, roads not moving. We will then hear from Ms. Heather Miller. She's the MP for Western Hanover. She will tell you about Spark and the big plans they had for Lucy, but they're not allowing them to reprioritize the roads. We will then hear from MP Omar Newell over in Central St. Mary. He's had a few problems. You've heard from him recently. He will give you more details today. And then to close out the team for today, we have Dr. Kenneth Russell from Southeast St. Anne. And boy, he will tell you, Spark, not Spark. Please help me to welcome MP Dwayne Vaz. There you have it. The pattern is clear, that it's not just that the work is delayed, but there is uneven implementation of the Spark program, shifting commitments, poor coordination, and growing frustration from communities. I want to spend just a moment before we take the questions to highlight that there in the second component of the Spark program, which is supposed to deal with the main road programs, the government is pushing to start that aspect. What we learned at the PAAC is that there are certain criteria that will qualify main roads to be selected by NAA. Some of those criteria include important buildings, roads that connect to other constituencies, high volume roads. So what that means is that in constituencies that are remote, such as South St. James, areas in Southeast St. Mary, in Central St. Mary, even in Central Westmoreland and Central Hanover, Western Hanover, roads will not likely get on this part of Spark because they don't meet the criteria that Spark has set out for the second phase of its program. So communities are being overlooked under Spark 1 and will also be overlooked again under Spark 1A. I also want to spend 1 second to reaffirm the opposition's commitment to any program that transparently and builds in accountability to ensure that people get the services they deserve in this country. So are we against Spark? Not at all. The opposition wants Spark to work. We need Spark to work. We get the complaints. We have to be sitting with the constituents and saying, please, don't block the road, because we want the program to work. We're asking the government to be fair, to be realistic, and to be able to adjust where the need arises, because right now Spark needs an injection, and if that doesn't come soon, then I don't know how long we can keep the people from blocking the roads. We're going to open the floor for questions. If you are online, please indicate by using the raised hand icon. If you're in the room and you have a question, please indicate by raising your hand. Then when you get the microphone, state your name, your organization, and proceed with your question after you have been identified. While we wait for the phone lines to open, I want to say to the residents in South St. James, Bottom Road, Cambridge, Richmond Hill to Mafuta, Brothers Retreat, Horse Guards, Catskin, Malden Road, Brissett Road, Old School Road in Niagara, Old Jackson Road, Comfort Hall to Wales Pond Road. Help us to get the message to the government that you need Spark to actually come to these communities, because you were promised and you're looking for Spark to come to their community. We will now open the phone lines for Christopher. Christopher, please unmute your phone and go ahead with your question.
Yes. Good morning. Christopher Thomas here from the Ghana. You hear me clearly?
Hearing you clearly.
Okay. Just want to seek some clarification as to a point that Ms. Miller Bennett would have raised when she was speaking as it relates to the contractors. I want to find out if this is something that is also across the board for everybody. Specifically, is it a case where the contractors, when they get the job, they do portion here, do portion next week, do portion the following week? So is it anything like that? And what has the response been when you ask about it?
Okay, we're going to invite Mrs. Miller Bennett to speak to her experience in Western Hanover.
So the difficulty that we're having is that the contractor starts, they stop. You don't know when they're coming back. You don't know when they're leaving. Workers, they employ workers, and workers don't know. So when they come to you, you don't know what to say because there's no communication. So yes, the work starts, it stops, but nobody communicates when it's going to start back or when what is happening. So I know other constituencies complain of the same problem over in East Hanover. Equipment mobilized in a particular area, expectations The residents expect the work to start, but then what happens? Equipment is moved, they're sitting there, workers ready to start, and they move the equipment without communicating, without telling you. They ask you for liaison officers. You give them liaison officers, but they're not communicating with the liaison officer. The liaison officer, they're left in the dark. The contractors don't speak to them, and so they don't know.
Thank you.
A little nuanced in mind, but same outcome. I think at the policy level, there may have been some issues or poor communication. So a lot of the stops and starts in Central St. Mary have been because contractors, based on the conversations with my liaison, were told to begin roads that did not have pipes leaking or did not need pipe replacement. But based on community knowledge, these were actually communities that had leaks prior to the project coming on stream. So I think whatever was communicated to the contractors who came in Central St. Mary would have caused them to have to do significant stop and start, because they had to stop, wait, get some amount of materials locally. When it ran out, they had to wait again for materials to come in, and that is what would have contributed to the 15-month and counting delay between the start of this 2 kilometers of road and where we are now.
Okay, so there you have it. And even in the case of South St. James, the one road that has been started, which is Brissett Road, start, stop for a long time and still waiting. That's it for us this morning from the Office of the Leader of the Opposition. Thank you for joining us. Please follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram at Jamaica PNP. Good morning.